Welcome, beautiful Paris Saint-Germain family, to episode 22 of the Blaugrana Parisiens. We're joined here by your beautiful guest, Barca Boy. Welcome, Barca Boy.
Thank you.
So, a lot of stuff has happened. I think there's only one international thing to like potentially talk about that's gonna happen. I think later today or tomorrow in the night, which is Argentina Brazil. But majority of the international stuff has happened. We'll obviously have some discussions also about like the quick game when Barca return. Obviously, they have two games when they return immediately. But Saint Germain have one game on the weekend. But yeah, internationally, I guess you were like mainly focused on the Spain Netherlands game, right?
Um, yeah, I was kind of watching. I was kind of keeping my eyes on both the France game and the Spain game because they were both going, of course, until the end.
Yeah,
But I was mainly watching the Dutch and Spain game because that was quite tight. A lot of goals in it as well. So, and of course, majority Barca players as well, which is probably why you watch the French games more often too, because you know a
Y-
lot of their French players. Yeah.
yeah. It would have maybe been a little bit with Portugal as well, but they faced Denmark. And then I don't want to see that Ronaldo dude, man. He just ruins the vibe all the time. But did you feel that the first legs were a bit dead compared to the second legs?
Yeah, this is why they should just make it one game.
Yeah. I don't know why
Yeah,
they did it two legs. Is it because of like they wanted, one team to have one home
home.
advantage?
I think so. Yeah, to make it even. And it should be whoever finishes higher gets the home advantage, just like in the Champions League. Then just have one game. Because in the
Yeah.
day, what was it? Three of them went to extra time. Two of them went into penalties. So it's like if it's that close, might as well just cut the BS and just jump right
Yeah.
into it. Again, it's Nation League as well. It's not like it's a big league, but it is making the internationals a bit more competitive and stuff, which is again the main goal of the Nations League. So this is doing its job. To be fair.
Do you feel it's exciting? I mean, I was excited yesterday. It was a great game.
Yeah. I think the players cared as well. You can see when Ian Matson scored for the Netherlands, how much the Dutch national team celebrated. So yeah, it gives it an extra meaning. So I don't mind it per se. I still think in terms of relevancy, it shouldn't be considered that high, the Nations League. But it's a nice little cherry on top of a season if you're doing well. If you don't have anything, it's nice to celebrate for a day or two. Um, so yeah, again, the goal is to bring back the competitive element to friendlies. It's done that, so props to it. But they should probably again reduce the games. I feel like again, if the two games were like Champions League, where one team wins 2-1, the other team wins 3-0, and then the second team wins it, then sure. But with it, maybe the players being tired and the games being so close due to quality that it's hard to separate them. I
Yeah.
think it should be one leg. But always, they'll probably try it again for two legs, and if it goes all of at least half the games again go to penalties, maybe they'll just scrap it and go to one leg.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, this was the first time I think they did quarterfinals. Usually it was just a semi and a final. They've also added a third place. They're just trying to make this tournament better and more exciting and so on. But it is a bit tiring for the
I
players.
don't mind the third place in quarterfinals. If you're doing that, then you have to scrap two legs, surely. That way you can again even squeeze in another. Maybe you can do quarterfinals and semifinals during one international break instead of one leg and two legs.
Yeah,
The next international break in June or May or whatever it is, you have the final then. Because now you have to do a semifinal and then a final. So it's like,
yeah.
but tweaks that
So
they could maybe improve upon.
I want to ask you if this is like 100% for the Ballon d'Or, how much percentage do you think, let's say domestically? So I'm putting the league, like the cup, the Super Cup together, and then the Champions League, and then the Nations League, and then the Club World Cup. How much percentage do you think everyone takes?
I think the Nation League definitely comes last. I think again, like let's say if two players are razor close, like Rafinha and Dembele, but then Dembele has won the Nations League, whereas you could argue Rafinha is not competing for a trophy like the Nations League, but he does have that Nations League that can give him that extra juice. I'd probably say it's half Champions League, then like 30% your league, 20% your cup, then the rest is just the Nations League. To be fair, the Club World Cup I think will have an impact. Maybe like 40% Champions League, and then how you do in your league, and then Club World Cup, and then the Nations League definitely last for sure. Maybe you can favorite the Club World Cup ahead of the league's domestic cup, like the Coupe del Rey, Coupe de France, FA Cup, stuff like that. You can edge the Club World Cup over that, but I think it still comes third to the league and the Champions League.
Okay. Because for me, the Nations League, especially with how the semifinals are gonna look and everything being impact, you have all the narratives. Obviously, excluding Rafinha and Vinny and so on. You have Mbappe, Dembele with France. You got Yamal, Pedri with Spain, Portugal. I guess their closest thing to a Ballon d'Or contender is Vitinha, probably this season. Germany, maybe Kimmich, not that high. So, do
Hmm.
you think potentially like if you say Yamal and Pedri Spain beat France, then Booz and Mbappe or that because it's narratives. You can do you think you can have a high because like when Ronaldo won the Nations League, he beat like a Netherlands team who nobody cared about. But do you
Hmm.
think because there is an actual opponent stand out there, you can have a bigger effect than you should have?
I think at the end of the day, the Nations League is not going to have that big of an impact on the Ballon d'Or, especially with there being Champions League, of course, and there being a Club World Cup. I think the Nations League will only be used by a country as like an extra juice. Let's say, like, remember when Benzema won the when Benzema won the Ballon d'Or, it was there was a debate between him and I forget who else it was. And everyone said that Benzema won the Champions League, but don't forget he won the Nations League as well with France. So that gave it a little bit of an extra like, oh, okay, he also did it this year with his national team as well. I think it was the first edition of the Nations League, so again, it was still a bit new. But I think again, in terms of the Ballon d'Or, it comes a lot to how you perform as a player, right? You have to be, of course, performing. You can't be like, oh, um, Lamine Yamal won the treble and then also won the Nation League. You have to give it to him. And, it comes down to who has the narrative, who has the PR, and then you have to see if the Nation League fits with that narrative or not. So if you're comparing Rafinha to Dembele, I think it's a good example. Let's say Barcelona win the treble, but then PSG win the Club World Cup and France win the Nation League. You're thinking, oh, we got maybe a little bit of an argument point here. I still think Rafinha edge it because quadruple in season, you cannot touch that.
Yeah.
That's first time ever. But that of course gives them juice. The Dembele did everything with France. Won the first edition of the new Club World Cup. Won the Nation League as well. Also had a fantastic season. I think that's where that Nation League trophy comes in. Not really opposed to having a real dictatorship in that discussion. Of course, the narrative will be great as well. It will help whoever wins it on their side as well if they need that PR Ballon d'Or push. But I don't think it'll be that deciding factor. Will be that final push. It'll just be a little bit of a cherry on top of the cake
Extra.
that should already be made if you're in a Ballon d'Or conversation.
I mean, what if Yamal scores a hat trick versus France and Spain win 3-2? What if Dembele scores a hat trick versus Spain and they win 3-2?
I mean,
You don't think like you know how reactionary people are,
yeah,
recency bias.
to be fair, I'll be honest with you. If Lamine scores a hat trick in the quarterfinal, semifinal, final of the Champions League with Spain as well for the Nations League, I still think Rafinha will take the Ballon d'Or over him, just because Barca fans are not stupid like Madrid fans. Once we kind of hone in on a player to push our PR on, we don't tend to push back. You see Madrid, they go with Vinicius first, then with Bellingham, then they'll go with
Yeah,
Mbappe. Now I'm seeing a Valverde push. They're doing all these different kind of narratives where Barcelona kind of stick with one, go with it. If Rafinha continues on the trajectory, but drops a hat trick here and there, and then has one for Spain, I still don't think he'll take it off of Rafinha because again, it comes down to consistency. What Rafinha has done at the beginning of the season cannot be taken away, even though Lamine was performing at an absolutely world class level. Maybe the GA and the stats aren't on his side. He's more so of the eye test kind of player, despite having 30 GA. But it'll definitely help with future narratives for sure. It'll definitely help with his PR in that Ballon d'Or. Some people have Lamine outside their top 10. I'm not taking any hints here, but that would definitely give him that extra push in there as well. So it comes down to who's in that conversation and then how the narrative fits that. You cannot. I don't think you can say. Let's say for example, Kimmich. Kimmich, of course, having a good season. Let's say he wins the Bundesliga. He win the Club World Cup. He wins the Nations League with Germany. I don't think that'll still give him a push compared to whoever wins if Barca or PSG win the Champions League and win the quadruple. That's
yeah.
basically what I'm saying.
I mean, that's one thing you brought up because I've mentioned it. Don't you feel Barca potentially could have the same problem that made maybe Vinny not win the Ballon d'Or last year in the terms of, like, for example, if you said, if I ask you who should be in the top 10, you at least have Pedri, Yamal, Rafinha, and Leva, right?
I have Lamine as well, but you're
No,
on some sort of
no, I said you have Yamal, Leva, Rafinha, and Pedri, right?
Oh,
Four
yes,
players.
yes. Yeah, yeah.
Don't you think that can like eat up from each other's votes, like Madrid, Carvajal, Bellingham,
Mhm.
Vinny last season?
You have to remember, right, that I'll give you this. This is the difference between Barcelona and Real Madrid fans. Real Madrid fans are all about PR. They just watch highlights, they move on. Barcelona fans are in the game. We love it. We support the team no matter what. What happened at the beginning of the season? You saw it last season, September, October, November. You're seeing pictures of Jude Bellingham edits and Ballon d'Ors. He's got the English P on his side, which is, you and I both know is very undefeated. He's performing well. Then we had the Vinicius edits of the Ballon d'Or as well coming February, March. All I have seen from a Barcelona perspective from August until now are Rafinha edits of him wearing the Ballon d'Or. I've not seen one of Lamine. I've not seen one of Lewandowski. I think some of Lewandowski when he first joined Barcelona because, he joined Barcelona to win the Ballon d'Or, right? But Barcelona are consistent. Barcelona fans are consistent. If you, like I just said right now, let me can drop a hat trick in the final of the Champions League, final of the Nation League, I still would say Rafinha. The narrative and the push from Barcelona's media and fans has always been on Rafinha, and it will always be on Rafinha unless he has some crazy drop off, and then someone else in the team like a Pedri or Yamal has some crazy increase. The narrative won't change. So that's why I don't think I'm worried about people taking votes off of other people. And we had the three La Masia grad with Xavi and yes and Messi at the top three. No matter who won it that year, we all would have been happy. Same thing here. If Lua wins it, I'll be happy. As long as a Barca player wins it, it doesn't matter to me. But again, the narrative of Barcelona has been pushed since September. So that's why I don't think it'll change, and that's why I don't think it'll have an impact. Everyone's been saying Rafinha. Then it was Salah, Rafinha. Now it's just Rafinha. So I don't think that I'm not too worried about other Barca players taking votes off each other.
I mean, because we have from last season, Bellingham in the beginning, then they started pushing it to Vinny.
Yeah.
Because when I started questioning this was the two man of the matches that Pedri got versus Benfica. I obviously didn't watch the second game, but I watched this. No, I didn't watch the first game against Benfica. I watched the second game, and I watched it with a Barca fan. I was like, who do you think will get the MVP? Will they give it to Yamal, who had a great assist and a goal, or they give it to Rafinha, who had 3 GA? And then Pedri came with it. I felt a bit surprised. Not that Pedri had a bad game. He was top 3 with them. I felt Inigo also had a good game. But when I saw that, it was like, wait, are Barca now pushing for Pedri?
I just think he had, of course, 2 fantastic. Again, with Ballon d'Or, you have to remember as well, the Brazilian media are going to be all over this. Remember, Brazil have not had a Ballon d'Or winner since R9 in 01, right? Brazil kind of, the home of football. Spain have just won a Ballon d'Or with Rodri. Before Rodri, I think it was Luis Suarez, the Spanish one for Barcelona back in the 60s. Again, I think what those Pedri man matches will do is going to push him top 5. So I think before that, he was kind of top 10 in the world, still the best midfielder in the world, but top 10 in the world. I think those man the matches, those performances push him to top 5. Like I mentioned, I don't see anyone from Barcelona, if we, of course, continue this trajectory, win what we need to win to be in Ballon d'Or contention, take the Ballon d'Or off of Rafinha. Again, the numbers are disgusting. And again, like you mentioned as well, I think you mentioned this, I think, back in the beginning of the year. It's a fantastic point. You have to look at what was happening, from last season until now. What's the difference? Rafinha went from a good player last season to now being elite. Pedri was always elite. The issue with Pedri was he just couldn't stay fit. And now this season he's staying fit. He's performing week in, week out, not performing 3 times, out for a month, 4 times, out for a month. So now we're seeing that, Vitinha won in 05 as well. Forgot about that. As the last Brazilian player to win the Ballon d'Or. So I'm not worried about Pedri. I think I would love to see a top 5 with, at least 3 Barca players. I think that should be the case. I think I was reacting to your list. You had 3 Barca players in your top 5 as well. So that's what I want to see. I think if the top 3 are Barca players, a lot of Barca fans are kind of thinking like, oh, can we get the Xavi and Messi, podium picture again? I think we genuinely could if we go on and do the quadruple and then maybe the Club World Cup and Nation League going. Maybe if a Spanish player wins the Nation League, go in our favor. Would it be? I think out of the 4 of Rafa, Lewa, Pedri, and Yamal, if 3 of those 4 can get in that seat, I think that'd be a huge W. And then whoever wins it in that moment, I would not care if it's Rafinha, Lua, or whatever. But I think the push for Rafinha is too much now at this point. It's kind of reached like the maximum. We're kind of like pumped all the juice, all the gas into it, so it's not going to change unless he has. I think it's more so due to him. If he has a crazy drop off, I don't think if he performs still this level and Yamal dropping a hat trick, Pedro man of the match here and there, I still don't think it will change. Only change if he really, really takes a slump. And like I mentioned, Madrid are always all over the place with their PR. They'll push Bellingham, then Vinny, especially like you saw, especially last season. But Barcelona, you can see always consistently from September until today, it's only been Rafa.
Do you think the Ballon d'Or winner could be someone who doesn't win the Champions League, or do you think that will be the main thing?
I think the only way that could happen is if it's in an international tournament summer, so Euros, Copa, World Cup. I think without that, maybe if there's an AFCON as well. Let's say Mo won the Premier League and also won the AFCON this year. Maybe that could help him out a little bit. But with no international tournament, I think it only comes down to Champions League, which sucks. I think it should be down to given to the best player in the world, like you. I think we and I can agree on that point very well. That's what the Ballon d'Or is. But just given to the best player who is his team with the Champions League nowadays, which is a bit unfortunate. So with that logic, I think it's really all down to Champions League, especially this new format as well. The new format will give it a bit of juice. So I don't think the Champions League winning team will not win the Ballon d'Or.
You brought that thing with the three-man podium before, because that's something we as PSG fans would also love to be part of. I think the only two times it's happened, it's you guys and AC Milan back in 90 something. It was Gullit, Rijkaard, and Van Basten. I don't know what they did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know what they did with the Netherlands that year, but I know that when you guys got it, you didn't win the UCL, but the Ballon d'Or was less about UCL before. Ever since Madrid have propaganda day, it was also a lot about the World Cup. Iniesta and Xavi there.
To be fair, that year we got knocked out in the semifinal of the Champions League. We were, of course, the heavy favorites. We got knocked out by Mourinho, the Inter game, which was a shithouse game. So fair enough to him. So again, we won everything and then got one game away from a Champions League win. So that's why I think that kind of helped. And of course, Messi was the best player in the world. Xavi Iniesta did unbelievable for Barcelona, and of course, won the World Cup as well. So that also helped. That's what I mean. See, if there's some sort of international tournament for countries at the highest level, that'll of course have a massive impact on the Ballon d'Or.
But that's what I'm asking. Do you still think you could get that? If we say you win the quadruple, do you think you could get three in the podium or three in the top five, as you said?
If you say, let's say we do the quadruple, we win in Spain, win the Nations League, I think you're definitely expecting at least Pedri and Rafinha at that point. Then all you gotta really hope for is Lower Yamal squeeze their way in some way somehow. Okay. Especially with the downturn that I do expect Liverpool to take now. All they have now is Premier League run for the last 2 months. So I think that Salah agenda will die down. I don't really see anyone in contention. And then Boost, again, France win the Nations League and you guys win the World Cup. That, of course, can cause some problems. We could call it the 3 former Barcelona players. But I didn't know that AC Milan did it with Rijkaard, Van Basten, and Gullit. I thought we were the only ones that had the top 3. Maybe we're the only ones that had the top 3 from the academy. I don't know.
Yeah, let me actually just double check so I know the year and everything. I
think it would be somewhere in the 80s, because in the 80s when the Netherlands won the Euros. By the way, don't you think that the Netherlands are such an overrated country? I mean, they always like give it as if they're like one of the big countries. They've won 1 Euros. They flopped so many World Cups, and they remember how England have this persona that they always lose on penalties. Look at Netherlands. 2014 lost to Argentina. They lost in 2022 to Argentina. They lost to Spain now on penalties. They lost like 4 or 5 penalty shootouts in their last 5 in major competitions.
I'll compare like Netherlands club-wise to maybe PSG in the sense of I think they talk so much because they've had like pure ballers. They've had so many great, especially attackers. Robben, Van Basten, Cruyff. But they are a bit of mentality chokers, similar to PSG. Like
if they have a World Cup in their name, I can let them slide. Maybe another year. If they have 1 Euros in their absolute, pure ultimate golden era, of course. But I mean, every tournament, even in the Euros, they got eliminated by like Turkey. Was it in the semifinal, something like that?
In what year?
The last Euros, and then the semi against
No, England.
Oh yes, it was England. I think before that they almost lost to Turkey. Then they lose to England, 90th minute goal. Like it's always like last second penalty shootout. They lose. It's just they talk like they're a good team when the stats and the accomplishments don't really prove it. They are of course a big in terms of world class talent. One of the greatest players, top 5 in my opinion, that's played the game, played for Netherlands. So I can understand their perspective, but yeah, I think they just
they do talk. I also want to mention it with Brazil. You've seen all the Brazil players talking ahead of the Argentina game, and I'm like, I understand. Like Argentina are your rivals. It's not like just a tough competitor, but you guys need to keep that mentality for when you come to go to the World Cup or something. Like this is what just a World Cup qualifier. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter even if you lose or win against Argentina. Like keep the
Mhm.
mentality. Even here, in the Netherlands Nations League. What you're gonna be happy with the Nations League? Is that gonna matter? I don't think.
Well, that's why when I said that when Ian Matson scored the equalizer for Spain, you saw how much they celebrate because they need a trophy, man. They don't win. They're like even England are probably the same thing. England have one World Cup in the '60s and that's it. I think England and Netherlands are both very much on the same similar boat. With Brazil, though, you have to remember that Brazil are the second most successful country in the history of football, right? They've won the most World Cups. They have the second most trophies. I think the first is Argentina, if you count everything altogether. I think Argentina have 23 and Brazil have like 18, 19. I saw a picture on Twitter the other day. So I think they have the right to talk. And again, it's the biggest country game. I don't mind him talking. I think a lot of Barca fans hate on Rafinha, which shows how much plastic fans that we do have. But I love this back talk. I don't mind it. You're saying now Soboslai and Aragula are getting into it. So I love this kind
Yeah.
of, beef between players. I think it brings that extra edge to the game. Liamal with Van der Vaart as well, which you probably didn't
No,
like, but I liked.
no,
So
no. What do you like people taking down their pants?
no, I like that Van der Vaart took digs at Yamal and then he scored against his country, knocked him out, and then did the celebration by doing the dig that he did at him.
Yeah, but
That's what I like.
I didn't feel Van der Vaart hit a dig. He just like validly criticized. He felt
Yeah,
that I didn't focus on the first leg game versus Netherlands. I just watched the highlights, and you could see like Yamal was half assing his way. And Van der Vaart was like, "Why is he doing that?" He said, "Like when you play for the national team, because you don't get paid by the national team, you're supposed to like show pride."
mhm.
And then Yamal, I don't know why he just can't accept like
But you have to remember that why do pundits when pundits cover their country, they talk smack for a reason. They talk smack to get under the player's skin to make them think about it. So he's of course saying that to maybe affect the Yamal's game. Should he be saying that? Yeah, if he really wants to, that sure. But at the end of the day, you're paid. The players are not paid, but he is paid to talk about the national team and to talk and analyze the game as a former player. And one of the great players of Netherlands as well to discuss the game, not discuss if Lamine Yamal's ass is half out or not. That's not his job to discuss. Yes, he can, of course. He also tweet about it, sure, but saying on national TV, taking a dig at him, it's a different perspective, right? So let me install that. Dunked on his country.
no.
Do I agree? Do I agree with Lamine Yamal showing half his ass? No. Do I care? No. Again, I remember back in my day when I was in high school, everyone was low riding. Here in Canada, we call it low riding. I don't know what you call it. Nowadays, that kind of died down like in 2015, 2016. So I am quite surprised he still does it. But maybe that's a culture that he grew up in the area 304 in Spain. I don't know. He's 17. By the time he's 20, he'll stop doing it like everyone else does. So I'm not too bad. The fact that a 40-year-old Van der Vaart who of course achieved a lot in the game is discussing a 17-year-old low riding when his country has not won anything since the 80s, and where he's filled with his country as well. I think that's a different perspective. I think that's where the kind of Barca fans think that Van der Vaart was taking a dig at him. Of course, him being a former Real Madrid player as well. So then the
No,
Manuel posting it on his Instagram just made it even funnier as well.
no, I do agree with the biases that, for example, when I talk about it, I don't care about the Netherlands. I don't care about Spain like that. Whilst Van der Vaart, as you said, he's an opposition fan, a reporter on his nation, and you also mentioned ex-Madrid player, so he has actually some biases to go at Yamal. I just feel like I don't know why Yamal just like
No, I
he.
think from your point of view, you had your arrogance agenda going. He's feeling it. Like I get it. And again, like I mentioned, I don't agree with it, especially with him, being a Muslim and fasting and Ramadan as well. It's not really the best of image. But at the end of the day, he's a kid. You and I have both made mistakes when we're kids. We've done stupid stuff as well. Yes, he's just a kid in the bigger light. Again, if he's like maybe the age of Jules Koundé, or expecting him to have a bit more elegance, a bit more professionalism, I think that would be very, very poor from him. But again, I know that you don't like the excuse of being 17, but I think in this manner, I was 17 and I did it maybe once or twice. I've seen all my friends do it back in the day. It was so trendy. So I mean, that's why I think if he was maybe doing, I don't know, if he's walking around with Neymar with like a side hat and a boom box and like this, I'd be like, slow your roll a little bit. But he's just low riding a bit. I mean, it's whatever in my book. Maybe again, I'm a Barca fan too, so that will help a little bit. I think the fact that he dunked on his country, then pulled his pants down to celebrate. I think that was hilarious. You see Ferran Torres' comment on his post?
Yeah. Drop
He's
it.
drop it lower, man.
No, because I remember I had the game on the side. I was watching the France-Croatia, and then I saw it was an insane goal by Yamal.
I
I was
know,
like,
man.
oh my God, Yamal. And then the camera turns around. I'm like, fuck. I can't even like genuinely I wasn't even hating on that game because like I don't hate like obviously if it's Barca it's one thing, when it's Spain national team it's like I don't have any agendas, plus Fabian Ruiz is there as well. But then I saw that I was like okay fuck, man.
But he only did it because Van der Vaart took a dig at him. He's not doing it to ask. If he did it like at a celebration, like just with no context, that would be very, very weird. I would definitely agree with you. That would be arrogance. But the guy took a dig at him. Dunked on his country, like the 100th winner, thinking that's the match winner. Low rise to tell him to hold that. I think it's funny. I think it's best cold moments 2025 compilation worthy.
Maybe. I wanted to show this. So we're talking about the podium. They actually had it twice in a row. In
Let's see.
88 and 89. Van Basten, Gullit, Rijkaard, Van Basten, Baresi, Rijkaard.
Fairs. I did not know that.
Some
That's kind of
true
nuts.
stamp padding. Yeah, they probably won the UCL back to back there.
We gotta get the top 3 now for Barcelona so we can equalize that record. What year was it?
88 and 89.
88 and 89. Yep, Milan won at UCL both years, beating Benfica in the final and some other random country, random club. I don't know. So yeah, they won the UCL both years. See how you're scrolling and I'm noticing like there's like no PSG players. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, you gotta go hit. Wait. Okay.
What year did Weah win as a PSG man? Yeah, because he joined you that summer. Take in that the last 2 times you've had a Ballon d'Or like top 3, they both came from Barcelona season. How crazy is that? Messi won it as a PSG player, but he won it for playing for Barcelona. Oh, then you have Mbappe. Okay.
No, but so Weah, it's like Messi, but the opposite. So he came top 3 because of what he did for PSG, but he won it when he was at AC Milan.
Yeah. Okay.
So we count him as a PSG Ballon d'Or winner because
I'll count that too.
Semi, but he officially won it as a Milan player. I don't count. Where is it? Yeah, this one as a PSG one because he won it for Argentina, but it's still like he was a PSG player when he won it, but we all know he won it.
So you're telling me that Messi won 2 Ballon d'Ors with PSG? How crazy is that? People told me he flopped there. Crazy. Dropped 2 Ballon d'Ors on your club's history, but flopped. Madness.
Yeah. No, not deserved, man. Not deserved. So now we come to this. Wait, let me put this one. No. Yeah, like that. All right. So on the left, we have my top 10 for the Ballon d'Or.
This disgusting list, may I add.
And in the video, I mentioned like this is not really my Ballon d'Or in terms of like when I watch with the eyesight. Like if I had to say these are the 10 best players, I just based it off on how the Ballon d'Or looks at it. GA, big game performances, big game goals, legacy narratives, just some BS. So let me know yours, and I will write the name. So 1
can stay the same. 2, I don't even know, man.
If you have similar players and they want to go up or down, just let me know, like up and down, and then I can.
I think I'd put like Dembele around 4th or 3rd. I don't think he's 2nd, just because I can't ignore the first few months. Just for now, anyways. I think, like I mentioned, he wasn't top 5. I think now he's top 5 after knocking out Liverpool. But I think 2nd is just a bit too much. I'd put him 4th. I don't know why. I can't swear because I'm fasting, but I don't know how the hell you have Kane over Lewandowski. For me, that's beyond criminal.
It's you come more towards the end of the season, bigger games. They're valued more from the Ballon d'Or.
How's there bigger games when he's playing in a pub league?
Leva had two stinkers, and Kane was really good in both legs versus Leverkusen. Like
Oh,
it's heavy Champions League.
yeah, but what about the first 3 months when Lua dunked on him 4-1 in the game? What about those first 4 months when Lewandowski was, scoring 20 goals in 10 games and Kane
Yeah,
was,
no,
having a slow start to the season?
yeah, no, Leva was ahead of him, but now Kane came ahead of him. And as I said, what you do now is more valuable than what you do in the group stages. Well, I have Rafinha because he's been going like this. Group stage, he's been cooking. Knockout
Yeah,
stages,
I
he's
mean, I
been
think
cooking.
Rafinha is the undisputed number one for everyone in the world. But I was saying when I was reacting to your list, I was saying that the top three strikers this season have definitely been Lewandowski, Kane, and Isak. I don't think anyone comes. I don't think that top three gets broken. But when Kane is stat padding 20 penalties a season, playing in the Bundesliga, and he's competing with a Bayern Leverkusen team that yes did fantastic this season, but last season, but have dropped off this season. They went into that tie as the favorites anyways. But you have Barcelona, who of course were in the worst form last season. The rise, what Lewandowski is doing at his age, 40 GA, not stat padding. What he's done consistently as well. I just couldn't see how you put Lewandowski. I don't know who am I going to put number two. I don't even know, man. I would say Pedri, but I think that's way too much bias. You know what, man? Put Dumbo second. I really don't know how else to put second, so I guess I gotta put Dumbo second. Give me Pedri third, Lua fourth.
Okay.
Put Salah fifth. Alvarez sixth. Change Vitinha's name to Yamal and put Yamal under Alvarez.
Ahead of Mbappe.
Yes. And then Mbappe. Then Kimmich, then Kane. That's a good list right there. Well, I remember with Yamal, first to 4 months he was cooking when Mbappe was, getting, rape cases in Sweden. So you can't forget, don't forget that.
No, for me, that's why I had not Yamal in my top 10. I don't think he's been a top 10 player. Ballon d'Or, like what Ballon d'Or looks at this season. Too many inconsistent periods.
I mean, the conspiracy that you're looking at is when he was injured. You have to remember that he has a goal or assist in every game but one in La Liga this season. He performs at the Champions League despite not getting G and A. So I think your argument is completely ridiculous.
Yamal has 2 Champions League goals this season and 6 goals in La Liga this season. How is that a top 10 player?
Because like I keep telling you, when we're doing shows every week, he is the most important player for Barcelona. When you watch him play, the movement that he makes, the runs he makes, he creates half the goal, just doesn't get the GA. Same with Pedri, but now Pedri's getting a bit of the PR because people are starting to watch Barcelona because, oh shit, Barcelona's actually a good team. Let's watch it. Oh, Pedri cooks. Pedri gets no GAs, and look where he's at, and your list and my list. You made them all at 17 after last season having only 7 GA, has now dropped up to 30 after winning the Euros. And again, he is when you talked about his inconsistent period, that's when he was injured. And when he wasn't injured, that's when Barcelona had their worst month period this season where we couldn't beat any team. Not only I think that does a lot to do with the fact that we have no depth in that position, but it also shows how important Yamal is. Without Yamal, this system does not work because in the Flick system, you rely so much on pure natural wingers. And Flick has found that perfect balance of having an inside forward on the left-hand side, the natural winger on the right, to provide both different outlooks. That way, both teams cannot, favor one side or the other. You can hold the width, you can nullify Yamal, but then Rafinha will come inside, he'll cook in the middle. Vice versa, you close the space in the middle, and Yamal will cook out wide. The man's dropping, 20 in assists and 10 goals. I was looking at Neymar's stats in the treble season for Barcelona. He had 30 goals, 10 assists. So basically, Yamal is doing the opposite, where he's providing more, so having more on the assist side and less on the goal side. So even look at all the games in the Champions League this season. Against Bayern Munich, he cooked. Against Dortmund away, he cooked. Against Atlanta 2-2, he cooked. Benfica away, he was poor both times we faced them. What other games did we have in the Champions League? Against Brest, he cooked. Red Star, he cooked. So all these games he's playing, but he's just not getting, GAs. But in La Liga, when he is playing week in, week out, he's dropping. Remember, up until from August until December before he got injured, he had a goal or an assist in every single La Liga game. Messi wasn't even doing that. Of course, Messi would drop like 6 or 7 in one game. Then one game he wouldn't have it. But Yamal is doing that. At his age as well, it is You can have him. I said it when I reacted to your list. I think I said that Yamal has to be top 10. He's probably around like 9th and 5th, somewhere around there. I'm not saying he's top 5 yet, but he's 100% top 10 for the best team in the world this season, who've only had a few week down period, the most consistent team this season, and he is the main reason for that. So that's why I think he has to be top 10. I put him over Mbappe, bit of bias. I think he's done it, more times this season. I think if you want to just count 2025, definitely Mbappe would be ahead of Lamine. I'm not taking away from what Mbappe has done, especially since that Liverpool game that we watched together. Since that game, he's kind of gone on the up, Mbappe. Yeah. But
my thing with this list is not really. It's like half my list and half what Ballon d'Or looks at, and because Yamal hasn't done the stuff that you need to win a Ballon d'Or or compete in the top 10, I don't think he's in a discussion. For the
what's the criteria for Ballon d'Or, right? Firstly, you have to perform individually. I mean, Yamal's doing. Your team performs well. Barcelona performing well. You have fair play. I mean, Lamine has fair play. Does he yell and scream at the referees? Does he respect the rules? He does. Yes, he low rides when he walks in the stadium with the boom box. Who gives a crap? What rule in the French football criteria is he not following?
No, I'm not talking about those. I'm looking at what they actually look at, not the stuff they mentioned. So big game goals is very important and crucial. Yamal has 2 goals versus Madrid this season. The goal versus Atletico Madrid. Then you can say goal versus Benfica, goal versus Atalanta, goal versus Monaco. That's about it. And for me, that's very low tier if you're going to be in a top 10 Ballon d'Or. And saying like he's very good at his age, I don't like that's good for Yamal, but that's not good for this list. That's why like Yamal in the future will be competing in these top 10s. But
I'm not. I think his age for me is just a bonus to what he's doing. I think his stats speak alone. Like, okay, Julian Alvarez, what big goal does he have this season in the Champions League? I mean, I can think of a big goals in the Liga, but in the Champions League, he scored against Madrid in the penalty shootout in the group stages. I remember nothing. Because Athletic didn't face any bigger teams, sure, but he hasn't no big goals. So why is he in your list 8th and Yamal's 11th? And why is he higher in my list than Yamal? Because I look at more than just a big game Champions League goal here and there. I think Yamal has more big games Champions League goals this season than Salah and Mbappe. You just named them. What does Mbappe's big goals have? Yes, he had the hat-trick against City, but that was it. So that's 3 goals compared to Yamal. You said, what did you say? You said 2 in the Clasico. You said the Benfica goal, Atlanta goal. So that's more goals there. Even the Champions League, if you compare Yamal, Mbappe, and Alvarez to Salah, why is Salah ahead? That's all Premier League PR. What has Salah done in the Champions League? Absolutely nothing. I think if we're talking about Champions League big games, all 3 of those players should be above Salah. So the Ballon d'Or, what you're mentioning about big game performance, big game goals is definitely a factor. I'm not saying that's not, but that is where the fine margin comes in. So okay, Salah and Alvarez, very close seasons. Okay, let's look at it. Alvarez scored a big goal in a penalty against Madrid at the Bernabeu. They almost knocked them out. Salah has nothing. Okay, edge it to Alvarez. That shouldn't be the premise of the discussion. I mean, where's Dembele's big goals in the Champions League? Yes, he scored off the bench against City in the group stages. Got the goal in the Liverpool games. That's 2 compared to the Yamal's 405 that we mentioned. So the point being is that when you talk about, I think when you look at the 5th to 10th, it's quite close. So yes, you can use big game moments to maybe define those positions, but that shouldn't be the premise of the discussion. Is my point.
No, I'm saying is goals is really crucial and important. Big game goals are crucial, but it's also where you like goals scored all around. And Yamal has I think 14 goals this season. It's just not comparable to all the players next to him. I mean, the only player here that is not a goal scorer is Pedri and Kimmich because they're both deep playing midfielders. Whilst Yamal is playing in the final third, he's taking the most shots for FC Barcelona this season and probably has one of the worst conversion rates in Europe's top 5 leagues. I think Yamal performs really well, but just not as a top 10 player. When I watch Barca, I think Leva does more for the team. I think Pedri does more. I think Rafinha does more for the team. Yamal obviously does this different stuff, but if we're talking impact-wise, I think those players impact the game more than Yamal.
I would have to disagree. I think I'd rather have them in the team than both Lua and Pedri. If you told me I could only have one of those 3 players in the game tomorrow, I would say Lamine. Maybe that's more due to the fact that we don't have depth for Lamine, but I think that I don't even have to argue because at the end of the day the results speak for himself. When Lamine was out injured twice for a month, That was Barcelona's 2 worst month periods this season. Whereas we didn't have Lewandowski for a couple of games, we still won. We didn't have Pedri for a game or two, and we still won. The worst period for Barcelona this season when Lamine Yamal was out injured, and we had Fermin Lopez, we had Pablo Torre out on the wing, and we couldn't even beat Leganes or Las Palmas at home. That for me shows how important Lamine Yamal is for Barcelona. Because again, if this list is based on what we've had so far this season, the most consistent team and the best team. If we go on to win the quadruple as well, and we'll see what Lamine does from now to the end of the season as well, that will only boost him further. He has more GA. He has the same GA as Vinny last season, and Vinny was getting the Ballon d'Or push. So and Madrid probably weren't unanimously the best team in the world last season. They were probably the most efficient team for what they've done, but they weren't playing the best football, whereas Barcelona are, and Lamine Yamal is a big factor to that.
Yeah, but I think Ballon d'Or wise, Rafinha, Pedri, Leva. Obviously, we both have them ahead of him, but I think they're the only.
Yeah, Ballon d'Or. Yeah, sure, but when you said that Lua and Pedri do more for Barcelona on the pitch than Yamal. That's where I disagreed. Where I think that if you told me, you have a UCL final tomorrow against PSG, you could only pick one of Yamal, Lewandowski, or Pedri to play the game. The other two won't play. I would pick Lamine. I think a lot of the Barca fans will pick Lamine as well. That is my point. That's how important he is for the best team in the world this season up until this date. And the output is there. He takes more shots, sure. To be fair, from the shots he takes, a lot of them are blocked, which is something that he has to work on, which is something I criticize him a lot for in my videos, because he sees the space, but he takes the shot too late, and then the defenders close the lines down very quickly. But when he does shoot, he scores important goals. He saw the goal against Netherlands yesterday. He's done the same goal against Benfica in the second leg as well. So the stat is there. Plays for the best team, most important player for the team. I mean, how he's not top 10, I don't understand. Again, you want to have him 10th, I wouldn't argue. But I think 11 is. You say there's no PR, but that's quite frankly PR there.
No, I mean, for example, you removed Vitinha from the list, like.
Because I removed Vitinha from the list because what I think you failed to ignore, or what you failed to see is where PSG were in August, September, October, November. If that was just for a month or two, I'd let that slide. And like I said, when I was reacting to your video, I said that Vitinha is the second best midfielder in the world. I think also João Neves has been sensational. I actually rate João Neves more this season than Vitinha. Why? Because I think they're both very good midfielders. They've both been very important for PSG, but I edge it to João Neves for the longevity. Also, this being his first season with PSG as well. Coming in the deep end, Vitinha came back slowly because of the Euros, which of course is completely valid. But Vitinha was not performing well in August, September, October, November. We're talking about we're right now heading into April, so that's still half the season. Once we hit May and June, that'll be the first 3 months. Everyone forget it. But up until this point, that is still half the season. Where PSG, yes, we're doing okay in Liga, which you do expect to do. They got that big win over Marseille 3-0 when everyone gave Marseille the hype. Remember that? Because they were performing well. Greenwood was scoring. You went and dunked on them. Fair enough. But you were, not beating Girona at home. You were getting, you were losing to Atletico at home. Got cooked by Arsenal. What was the other game that you played at home that you didn't end up winning? You lost to Bayern Munich away. So all these, you talk about big game performances, big games, moments where none of your players were there the first 4 months. Yes, they came against City and Liverpool, the last two, which of course were the two most important. Shout out to you, great games there. But what about the other four? You can't just look at the last two and then ignore the six before that. You had the most difficult group stage. You were happy about that because you won the big games. I applaud you for that. Look at big games this season, the Champions League. You've won 2 and lost 6 or 7.
Yeah, but
you won the 2 most important ones.
It's only been 2 underwhelming months. It was the underwhelming month of September and October. So August.
My point is that you start off slowly. My point is that you start off slowly. That you had that 2 months that you said September, October, and that kind of had a little bit of an after effect into November as well. You still didn't win your Champions League games in November. So that is my point. I think Vitinha is definitely top 3 midfielders in the world this season. I think João Neves has been unbelievable this season as well. I think he's a very underrated signing. Very good player. We of course saw how well he did in the Man City game. That's my first. That was a wake up call for me to see. João Neves is an elite footballer. But if you're talking top 10 for Ballon d'Or from August when the season started until today, I don't think they're quite there yet. They probably will be there in a month or two. If once PSG knock out Aston Villa, they maybe go and go the league undefeated. We'll see what happens in the Club World Cup. They will be there. I have no doubt about that. But as of right now, I don't think they're quite there yet.
Um, yeah, for me, I think a lot of people, when it comes to PSG and their players for the Ballon d'Or, they talk too much about that beginning of the season when it really doesn't matter. It's really not impactful, and it wasn't even like we were bad in those games or got
Let
outplayed.
me let me let me say
It was
this real
just
quick.
unfortunate with the chances.
Mhm.
And I feel
Let's
like
say
it's
this.
just a way to discredit PSG, who have like performed as the best team in the world for at least 4 or 5 months in a row now.
That's not true because Barcelona are the best team in the world. But if you get knocked out by Aston Villa tomorrow, what happens then? I guarantee you Dembele will not touch top 10. I don't think there'll be a PSG player in the top 10. Whereas I think there should be. Why? Because in the big moment, yes, you beat Liverpool, then you lost to Aston Villa. Everyone will forget about you. You need to do more to get into a top 10. I'm not discrediting. I told you that right now, PSG are the second best team in the world, 100%. I said to you, if you're not at Liverpool, you're there. And you are there. You are performing very well. You're cooking teams left, right, center. The reason why I didn't want to face you is that I was scared. But you cannot ignore when Barcelona. So you're telling me when Barcelona were cooking in the beginning of the season, beating Madrid 4-0, Bayern 4-1, Valladolid 7-0. It means nothing now because all of a sudden PSG started performing since December. You
No,
have to look
that's why you have Rafinha, Pedri, and Leva in the top three for both of
exactly,
us.
and that's
Just
why
because that
Vitinha.
doesn't
That's why
matter.
Vitinha shouldn't be there yet. Because the first four
No,
months of the
but
season, he wasn't there.
yeah, but Vitinha, it's about the performances in the bigger games. Like
Yes. So where was
Vitinha,
he against Girona? Where was he against Atletico? Where was he against Bayern Munich?
I mean, he
He's,
was good in those games. Just because we lost doesn't mean he wasn't good.
okay, so when I say that about Lamine Yamal, he's performing well, but he doesn't get the GA. It's a different argument. You have to keep it
Yeah,
consistent.
I haven't brought up any defeats. I'm talking about Yamal hasn't been that good of a performer. I haven't
But I'm
brought
saying
up
that he
like
is.
Barca's defeats and blamed that on Yamal.
No, I'm not blaming the defeats of PSG on Vitinha, but he's performing well. But PSG aren't getting results. Lamine Yamal is performing well, and Barcelona are getting results. And when Lamine Yamal is not there, Barcelona don't get results.
Yeah, but I don't know how that matters. I'm strictly looking at individual performances. And obviously, the best performing teams are the teams that are having the most players there. But
So how is a player with 30 GA this season performing for the best team in the world and the most important player for a team not in the top 10? Take away the low riding, take
I,
away his age.
no, I said I disagree that he's been the best performing Barca player this season. I disagree that he's Barca's most important player this season. That's your opinion. I disagree on that.
Mhm.
Whenever I've watched Barca this season, Yamal has been good, sometimes great, a lot of times bad, but I don't see a top 10 player in the world in him. I don't see it
So
yet.
I definitely don't see a top 10 player in the world in Vitinha then.
Yeah, and you're completely free to have that
Mhm.
opinion.
Mm.
Um,
I just think that, I understand that once we hit the end of the season, once we come, May and June, everything is done. The first 4 months of the season, everyone will forget. I understand that completely. I think that if PSG go into a semifinal against Madrid, who knows what happens? PSG win the domestic treble again, go undefeated. Everyone will remember that, and you'll have PSG players in the top 10 100%, and it's fully deserved. But at this moment in time, where the first half of the season, August, September, October, November, are still relevant because we played more in August, September, October, November than we have now in December, January, February, March. We played more games back then, so that has to be taken into consideration. Like when PSG, you know, in the first 4 months of the season, they're not performing, and then all of a sudden now in March they have 6 players in the top 20 Ballon d'Or. It just doesn't make sense. And they have more players than Barcelona, which doesn't make sense.
yeah, but again, you're tying team success to individual performances too much. Like
No,
I
no,
said, Hakimi
I
was 13th because even though when we were in our bad period, he
mhm.
was our best player in the Champions League. He
No,
was
so,
scoring.
let me make myself clear. So I think right now we're at a point now where everything is defined by fire margins. I'm not taking away from these players' performances. Everyone here in this list has performed well, whether the team has won or not. Vitinha, whether Pedri when he's performing when but Yamal wasn't there, we weren't playing well. We're now at a point in the season where we have to define things by a fine margin. So whether Vitinha, I don't discredit Vitinha not performing well in those 4 months where PSG weren't doing well as a whole team collectively getting results. But when we're at this point now, okay, Vitinha and Kimmich, what's the difference between the two? Why is Vitinha ahead of Kimmich. Is where you look at the individual performances. They both performed consistently this season. They're both top of their leagues. Okay, Vitinha has done well recently because PSG's form over recently have been exceptional, and he's the main reason for that. Whereas Bayern have just been on a steady path this season. That's a valid point. So when you're at this point in the season, you have to look at fine margins. So who's performing more? Okay, Yamal and Vitinha both performed consistently this season. Okay, which team got the better results? Who got there in the big moments? Like you mentioned, big goals are going to be important during this debate, and I fully agree with that. So you have to look at the point of where we're currently at, and I think when you look at the bigger picture, I think Dembele, to be honest, he's been just so cracked in 2025. That's why he's in the top 3. I think we had a great 2025. I think he has 25 goals now. Let's say, for example, he had 15, 18, something like that. He'd be lower in the list. But he's just been so unbelievable. And like you mentioned, more goals than prime Messi and Ronaldo at this stage in the season. This is why the credit is deserved, because he's way overachieving. Whereas Vitinha, we already knew last season he was a brilliant midfielder. I think he was top 5 in the world last season. So it's changed now. The change now is that his first 4 months, his team, despite him playing well, his team was not getting results. I mean, you cannot forget that you were Luis Enrique out for about a month.
Yeah, but again, I don't understand why you're tying so much to the team. Second of all, I've told you it was 2 months. And third of all, it was only in the UCL and not in the league. Obviously, the league is not as valuable as the Champions League, but you're trying to say like PSG were playing, I don't know, as a championship side or something. Even as I said, in the games where we drop points, apart from the Arsenal game, I didn't feel we were that good. But the Girona game, like, our players performed well. It was mostly the team and chance creation at the end of the day, and the tactics of Luis Enrique. I don't understand how that goes against individual performances. Like, Vitinha has been good.
I'll give you an example. So when Xavi won the double in his first full season at Barcelona, everyone at Barcelona weren't that happy. We won the double. We had the best defense in the world. The style wasn't that great, but we still won 2 trophies. The season after that, he tried to make the style better, and we crumbled. Under Koeman, we won only the Copa del Rey during that season. We were in a title race. We got knocked out by you in the Champions League. We played some great football second half of the season, but we had no players touching top 10, where you had Antoine Griezmann that season being the most consistent player in the world that season, dropping, I think, almost 20, 30 GA, in prime COVID times. So when you look at a list of Ballon d'Ors, we're talking about the elite, the top of the top. Everything needs to be taken into consideration. When you get to this point where everything is fine margin, razor focus, I mean, if you just a perfect way to summarize your season and my season is just go to our YouTube channel and scroll through the videos. Go to the desktop so you can see all the videos at once. See the mood, see the titles, see the vibes. That sums up where everyone was at. Where I've been happy the majority of the season, and you started the season very unhappy. Again, whether you played well and didn't get results is irrelevant to the guy in Somalia voting for the Ballon d'Or. He's gonna look and see that, oh, you guys got cooked in the group stages. You barely got out of there alive. We got out. You've done well since then. So you performing well and still narrowly losing, drawing with Girona. Then Dembele scores that 1v1, you win, and everything's a different perspective. That's of course going to be different. But you were Luis Enrique out for about a month. You remember the U shape? All this stuff that has to be in discussion, especially at this point now where that is still a chunk of the season. At this point, that's still probably more of the season that we've had now. PSG, I think, have been more mid this season than they have been good. They've had 3 months of world-class, second best team in the league, where they've had 4 months of them doing what they should do in Ligue 1, but then being in relegation zone for the Champions League 6 out of the 8 match days.
Yeah, but again, we're not doing top 10 best teams, because then, I would put Barca ahead of PSG because you have been consistently better.
No, we're not doing top 10 best teams, but when you're talking about we're talking about the players, where when you're talking about the players and it's coming to this close, my point is that consistency and player and how the team performs comes to discussion when the list is this razor close.
But how is it close? Who is close? I don't understand. Who is close?
Like when you're talking now that Vitinha shouldn't be top 10, where I have Kimmich ahead of him. The reason why I have Kimmich ahead of him is that Kimmich was performing majority of the season consistently. whereas his team were performing well in September, October, where they had that dip where Barcelona beat them. They then of course came back up in November and December. They started of course being Bayern Leverkusen. They finally cracked the code to beat them. They performed well in the Champions League. They got out and beat Bayern Leverkusen. Whereas PSG barely got out of the group stages and then had to be a tough Liverpool team. And credit to them, they did. That's how they progress.
I think Bayern München finished below us, or maybe 2 points ahead of us. They lost to Aston Villa. They lost to Barca. Like they were not performing well in the Champions League
Yeah,
group stage either, and that was also
exactly.
due to Kimmich not performing. I don't know why that isn't brought up. Like
So
they've had pretty much an as underwhelming season with probably easier games to play than PSG had. So how does that go in Kimmich's hands?
it goes in Kimmich's head because I think Kimmich, like Dembele, since November, since Bayern Munich had that wake up call, has been overperforming. Remember, he was a free agent for about the majority of the season, and now he's signed. Now Bayern Munich finally gave him the money that he wanted. Why did they give him the money that he wanted? For how well he's playing on a consistent basis. And look at again, if you want to go to recency bias, look at the 2 games against Bayern Leverkusen. Who were the best players who was the best player over the course of 2 legs? It was Kimmich. He got 3 goals. He got 3 assists and 2 goals against Italy over 2 legs just now in the Nations League from right wing back. So he's performing at a high level, higher than what we rate Kimmich, and also had done it for a longer period of time this season than Vitinha. Of course, 2 players are very different positions. Kimmich is a leader at Bayern Munich, whereas Vitinha is just one of their better players. So when you look at it from that kind of perspective over the course of the season, I have Kimmich ahead just a little bit of Vitinha, where I expect now Kimmich with Bayern Munich probably will get knocked out soon, whereas PSG are expected to be at least in the semifinal. If Kimmich, of course, Bayern Munich just win the Bundesliga, that's not really enough to give them the PR. So of course we'll drop him down the list.
Yeah,
but if you look at the past, go ahead.
You said Kimmich has performed better, like for a longer time this season. I mean, he hasn't.
Well, I mean that's my opinion. That's yours. Just like with Barcelona and PSG, where I've seen more of Kimmich since November, getting assists and goals when Bayern Munich were still dogging it out in the title race with Bayern Leverkusen at that time. Then they only had 2 or 3 point advantage since then. That's where I've seen Kimmich shine, getting the big results in the beginning. There's a few away games where he get a last second assist, win a last second penalty for Kane the stat pad into. Maybe I've seen more of Bayern Munich. I don't know, but this is what I've seen. This is what I think. That's why I judge my opinion on.
Yeah, but like when it comes to the deep playing midfielders we have here, Vitinha, Kimmich, and Pedri, I don't look at GA at all. Like I strictly look at how they dictate the game.
I didn't say GA. I'm looking at big moments, and what defines big moments is GA.
Yeah, but not for a deep playing midfielder. Like even Pedri, sure, he had like a great assist to Eric Garcia versus Benfica, but why I have Pedri in my top 5 is because when I watch Barca, he's the one calming the pressure down. He's the one progressing the ball. He's the one creating the chances. So
and Kimmich is doing all that for Bayern Munich from deep, from the pivot position as well. Because they rely more on Goretzka for pressure and intensity and to win balls back in the midfield. He's kind of like their actual 8, whereas Kimmich in the 8 is dictating play. And that's why he has GA on his side, because he gets to dictate majority of the play for Bayern Munich. And again, their rise, remember the first 2 months, people were saying, oh, how's Company in the job? Oh, it went from Burnley to Bayern Munich. He, of course, got overhyped, this, that, and the other. And now they're, 8 points clear in the Bundesliga. They win the Bundesliga. They're, 3 or 4 games away from the Champions League final. With Germany, he's doing well. So all these things are taken into consideration, because when you look at these players, they're both, I think, at a very good level and both very close. You look at 5 margin, like you mentioned with the big UCL goals. I look at it here for the midfielders, how they involve play, last second tackle, whether it be a man-of-the-match performance in a big game they needed to win, whatever the case may be. And that's why I think Kimmich edges Vitinha, and that's why I have Kimmich ahead of Vitinha. Will Vitinha probably pass Kimmich? Probably. I expect him as a midfield that's a bit more further than Kimmich to have more bigger moments as we do push now for the end of the season. But as of this moment, where Kimmich is doing it, for Bayern Munich, he's now done it recently for his national team as well. That's why I have him ahead of him.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, these rankings will be changing now with the future time, especially with all the bigger games coming up, the Champions League, the Nations League, the Club World Cup. So yeah, we'll see. So the only player. So the only player that's missing, we basically have the same top 10, just in different orders, is Yamal and Vitinha. I have Vitinha, you have Yamal. Then other big differences, I guess, like you have Kane lower, way lower than me. Apart from that, it's pretty much the same. The only like the big similarity is obviously Rafinha, Dembele as the top two.
Mhm.
And how much do you think the gap between them is?
Um,
Because wait,
I
if
think
I do a
Dembele.
drawing, if sorry to interrupt. If I just
No,
do a
no.
drawing of them two, let's say this is Rafa, this is Dembuz. If we say like this is average, this is the average line. Like
Mm-hmm.
Rafinha, he started well, and then he just stayed here.
Yeah.
Whereas Dembuz, he started well, he had good moments, then he goes down, then up,
Mm-hmm.
then and then he's like, because Dembuz's peak this season has been higher than Rafinha's peak. Do you agree with that?
Um,
For example, since 2025 started, I think
I
Rafinha
mean,
has
if you want to do since
26
2025
goals
started.
this season. Dembele has scored all of that in just this period.
Mm-hmm.
But it just like Rafinha's been more consistent.
I
Whilst
think
Rafinha, Dembele, it took him a time.
you see that jump that you said that Dembele made.
Yeah,
I think Rafinha made that same jump, but of course not to like the highest of level, but for his expectation.
yeah.
So remember, like what you expected from the Bulls, you're probably expecting 25 GA a season, him to be a deadly winger. That jump that Dembus made was the same that Rafinha made at the beginning of the season from the Barcelona fan perspective. Of course, not as high as a jump since Dembele now numbers are crazy, but
Yeah.
Rafinha did that same jump, and then when he did that same jump, he's now continued at that same exact level.
Exactly.
I think the only way, Dembele passes Rafinha is if PSG win the Champions League. That is it. I think that there's nothing else that Dembele can do. Even if he drops like 40 goals from now to the end of the season, and of course Barcelona win the big trophies, I don't think there's any way Dembele can pass him because what Rafinha has been from August until now at that high level, that peak of the graph that you have for him, whereas Dembele is just coming out, just now coming to that in January. So
Yeah, but don't you think like because the peak that Dembele has reached is higher, it's gonna count for more?
um, I think Dembele's peak is a bit higher, yes. Do I think it'll count for more? No, because I think the consistency of Rafinha will trump the extra peakness that Dembele has. Let's say Dembele's peak is here, Rafinha's peak is here. I think that gap between them, I think that consistency for Rafinha will give him the edge.
And if we say both PSG and Barca, none of them win the UCL. I mean, I think if it's Madrid, Mbappe wins it. Madrid
Yeah.
PR. But do you think if Bayern wins it, Kane is 100% winning it? 'Cause he doesn't have that PR.
I think it'll come down to the Club World Cup then.
Ooh.
Nations League as well. So if PSG don't win the Champions League but win the Club World Cup and then Boost wins and France win the Nations League, then yeah, probably the Boost will have, and of course the Boost continuing on this trajectory, then definitely yeah. But
So then, strictly for Ballon d'Or, there's more pressure on Barca and its players to win the Champions League because, like, I mean,
that's all
we
we
only
have.
have
Yes,
Dembele because he can do something in the Nations League or Club World Cup.
yes, that's correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. I can't wait. We'll do all right. We'll do actually one because I mentioned we would talk about it strictly before. The Brazil Argentina game. How do you feel?
That'll be a good game to watch. I think Arsenal, if they win, they qualify for the 2026 World Cup, which would be a nice feat to get over with. I think.
Yeah.
Interesting game. I think it's in Argentina this time because the other game was in Brazil. If you can just scroll down, I think it's in Argentina.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, be interesting game. No Messi, of course. Brazil have have no Neymar, but I don't know, man. Argentina are just dogs, man. They just dog out results all the time. So, I expect like a 1-0 win for either team. I think a draw is. I don't think a draw will happen.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
both teams want to win it.
Yeah. Both teams want to win it. It's of course probably the biggest game in national team history, and it's a game now with the narrative's kind of no Messi for Argentina. Can Argentina still perform well at the highest level and still beat teams without him? That's kind of the narrative too. Being an Argentina fan myself, it's a game where you kind of want to see the character of the players. They need to rely on Messi. Of course, we know that Brazil need Neymar, or else they're pretty much cooked regardless. Can they survive? Can Rafinha now take that place of the king of Brazil from Neymar? Of course, we beat them at the Maracanã Stadium for the first time in the last World Cup qualifier. First time ever win there after the Copa America win. So we kind of have done a lot of damage to Brazil. This is why they're saying. Remember how Rafinha Mario said fuck Argentina and stuff. We've done them a lot quite recently, so they kind of want to get a little bit of payback. So it'll be a very interesting game to see. How about you?
And I'm thinking potentially watch along because it looks to be an interesting game. Obviously, especially with Vinny finally after 36 games having his first big moment for Brazil. It's gonna be exciting if he can replicate that or if it was Fugazi. But no, a lot of the Brazil players have talked trash. I don't know if the only thing I've seen is Di Maria. Obviously, he's not playing for Argentina yet, but I think he responded to Rafinha's comments on his Instagram or something about it. So it will be a very hectic game. I also saw that Brazil beat Argentina in some under-21 cup. And I was watching that game, and it was a very hectic game as well. So I think some of the rivalry and heatness is going to come from that game. Argentina may be looking for revenge against Brazil. So it could be a very interesting game, despite it, just being a World Cup qualifier.
You have to remember that, in World Cups, we're not guaranteed. They're not guaranteed to face each other. The only time they're guaranteed to face each other, maybe in Copa America, both teams go far. They're both in the same group. Blah blah blah. So that's why qualifiers actually mean quite a lot, because it's the only time that you're guaranteed to get a Brazil-Argentina game.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I wanted to mention, because I have some questions about the Osasuna game. How does it look for the players that are gonna return? Because I saw that thing with Araujo, he's gonna or Rafinha, they're gonna take an immediate jet. But you quoted that they're just gonna be in the squad and not start the game and not play the game.
Yeah, they'll be on the bench if we're losing. If we need to, rely on or use them, they'll probably come in. It's actually looking quite all right. I think no one who played yesterday will play. So Lamine will not play that game for sure. Frankie de Jong will not play that game for sure. Koundé will not play that game for sure. Ferran will definitely start. Ferran's played next to no minutes for Spain. He only, I think, played 20 minutes or half an hour in extra time for Spain. That's it. So he can definitely play this game. Lewandowski now is just being rested. I've just been texted. So he's get rested today. It's only one game for him. That was last week. So it's actually looking not as bad as we thought. Of course, Kubarsi got injured, but it was just a minor strain. So he, of course, pulled out. Only played 4 minutes for Spain during the international break. So that looks okay. Inigo, of course, didn't travel. Balde, some of our under-21 players, Fermin, Pablo Torre, Gerard Martin, they only played one game for the under-21s, and the under-21 coach sent them home. So they only played one game. So it's looking okay. I would say just definitely 100% no Lamine, no Frankie, no Koundé. And the rest is kind of up to really Flick and his team based on fitness, based on what they see, but based on what they want to risk. So I don't think it'll look too bad. Of course, Osasuna have Zaragoza out injured. That'll be a huge, huge loss for them. Thank God for that. Alhamdulillah. Budimir, of course, played 2 big games for Croatia against France. Maybe he'll be a bit tired. I don't know if he'll play the game or not. That's also a big advantage for Barcelona. And the rest is kind of, on a wait-and-see kind of basis. But we're not looking as bad as we were at the start of the international break. The issue really is that the game's coming up afterwards. So you, of course, play Thursday, then Sunday, then Wednesday, then Saturday. You can pull up the games here. It's just, relentless games from now until the end of the season. The only break we'll get is in the last week of May before the Champions League final, if we're in it. Everything else is just, weekend, midweek, weekend, midweek for the rest of the season. Especially if we make a Copa del Rey final, especially if we make, the semi-final of the Champions League as well. Yep. It's just, relentless. So the management of the squad will be very, very crucial. This is, of course, the season where you rely and, beg for your squad depth to come in clutch. So hopefully it does. inshallah. But as of now, in terms of this Australia game, we're looking okay. Again, only 3 big players, I would say 100% not playing this game. The rest will kind of be down to Mr. Hansi.
Interesting. I can't wait for El Clasico. I hope PSG don't play the same day.
Check right now. That classically is already guaranteed for May 11th.
Yeah, but you know, as you said, with us, we also have like games that we could potentially play that they haven't set dates for. Was it 11th?
But let's see what you're doing that weekend at least, 11th of May.
Yeah.
So is that game confirmed?
It says A Clark, which means not. I think that's the time they mean. It's not decided yet.
I think that actually means that that's the weekend game that you have, but the day and time is yet to be confirmed. So that weekend you play Montpellier, but what day you play it still is not confirmed yet. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And by that point, your season looks like it's going to be already ending. I don't know when the Coupe de France final is. I don't think it'll be that weekend. So that weekend you play Montpellier, but the time and date is still to be confirmed. That's what Google does.
I hope it's early, because then you also have a potential.
You might play on Saturday. You don't know. Maybe you might play on the 10th on Saturday.
I hope so, man. Because I missed this Super Copa final. That game I didn't want to miss. And then, as I said, you may play in the Copa del Rey final as well. So hopefully,
I think the Copa del Rey final. I can actually tell you the date right now. It's in the end of April. I think it's April like 26, something like that. 1 second. Let me get it for you. So at least you can check. So it's April 26th is the Copa del Rey final. So check the weekend of the 26th of April and see if you played that weekend. Let's go down more. Yeah. So you played Nice. So you have Nice that weekend. So we'll see what day and time you get. I think the final is at 9 p.m. like Spanish time, which I think is the same time as France. So 9 p.m. France time. So yeah, they're cooking you, man. They keep putting you on the big, putting PSG at the same time as Barca. Did you watch the 4-0? Was the 4-0 same day as the PSG game, or did you watch that one?
No, that one I had a blast, man.
Yeah, what a time. What a time.
That was a crazy game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if this is the actual date, yeah, and then this one, even if it's on the same day, sometimes Ligue 1 puts us like early time. Like we've had, they don't show it here, but sometimes we play during the day. Like this Angers game, we play 5 p.m. So if that happens, I could go and watch that. Well then,
before we end, I have a question for you. I wanted to know your thoughts on Van der Sar, the right back for Monaco. How do you think? Like, is he good? Do you think he's one of the best fullbacks in the league? Do you rate him?
So we also have the issue similar to you, and you have Koundé with Hakimi, but we don't really have a backup. And Van der Sar is a name I mentioned because I don't think he is good enough to be a starter, which means he doesn't think he's a starter, which means he would accept a bench run, but he's not like bad. So he will be, I think, a perfect backup for FC Barcelona. Good offensively as well, and good enough defensively. I mean, he was the player that at the Hooter changed side to put on Lamine Yamal.
Yep.
And then Yamal cooked him and scored on him.
Only once, to be fair. I think the rest. I think Van der Sar was. We played Monaco twice this season in the Champions League, and then the Joan Gamper, but we lost 3-0. He played well in both games. I do really rate him. We've been linked with him now for about 2 years since he made that move from Porto to Monaco. We've been linked with him, and apparently this summer we're actually gonna fully go for him. There's this journalist that works for Barcelona. His name is Joaquim Pereira. He's a Brazilian, so he knows all the Brazilian connections. He gets everything with Brazil. When we had Victor Roque, Neymar. All the Brazilian movements, he gets 100%. He said that they're gonna go for Van der Sar. Flick approved it. They're already started to talk with him, and Van der Sar already knows about this, and they're gonna make a move for him this summer. I do really rate him. I like how he can play both left back and right back. Of course, maybe not as good of a left back as he is a right back, but still having that capability is huge. So I think for 20-30 million, he'd be a good signing for Barcelona. So I just wanted to get your thoughts, from the Ligue 1 watcher.
Yeah, as I said, every time I've watched him, I'm like, yeah, this is someone who I would also be willing to bring in as a backup to PSG. But no, he's a good player, versatile, and yeah, Monaco have. The only thing is sometimes we haven't faced him. Sometimes they Monaco have played Zingo, I think his name is Wilfred Singo instead of him. So I haven't seen him enough. Um, and they've been competing for that spot. But no, he'll be a very good signing for Barca. Good price. And Monaco usually they have good talents,
Yeah.
even though some of them have flopped as well.
Yeah, but I like him, and I think that ability to play on both sides is really, really important. We followed him now for about 2 years, so I mean, I'm bound time that we at least make a move for him. And again, the two times I've seen him play, he did really well against Barcelona, especially again against Yamal. Despite Yamal cooking him and beating him that one time and scoring, I think he did very well against Yamal on his weaker side the rest of the game.
Yeah. I don't remember that much. Obviously, it was also red card tax. But
Yes,
yeah, I only remember that chance.
Yeah.
Which former player will you guys take back? Okay, we'll take this last question here.
Mm-hmm.
Which former player will you guys take back at your clubs? So, in his peak.
I think I have my answer. I think it's a bit. I think it's a bit obvious.
Well,
Want me to go first? I guess let's take Messi out of the equation since he's a bit obvious. Of course, if there's anyone and Messi's included, I will say Messi. But if I would say one player that's not Messi, I would say the first thing that comes to mind is Busquets. But with Busi, I think now high intensity, high pressure football. Would he cope? I think he of course can deal with the pressure. But talking about movement and pressing players, stuff like that. He's the first one that came to mind. Suarez came to mind as well, which you're probably thinking, Lewandowski has 40 GA this season. Why? But Lewandowski, some games he's just terrible to watch. You could say maybe Neymar for the wing, and then maybe what you're gonna do with Rafa, put Rafa in the middle. That's why I wouldn't really say Ney. Maybe PK. You know what? I'd lock in Suarez, just because I think that Lewandowski has been great and has been clinical this season, but he has 40 GA this season where he probably should have like 55 GA. I think prime Suarez would get that. So I will say El Pistolero.
Okay.
I'm betting Ibra from you, by the way. Ibra is Messi. They're like, I'm betting you for saying Ibra.
No. I was gonna bin Neymar. Neymar is the one. Is our
Okay.
Messi. He's the one that I've been, and then it's for me. It's between either Ibra or Thiago Silva. Ibra would have been huge. Like you can have Dembele, Kvara then on the wings. Ibra could also be a great like false nine-esque for Lucho. Obviously, not the same as a false nine, but he's very technical, very strong, very big. We could play long balls to him. But if I pick one, like the biggest upgrade would probably be Thiago Silva because he would bring immense leadership, great with the ball. For me, the best center back I've seen. So yeah, I think
I would have said
Thiago
Ibra
Silva
more
then.
because I feel like you need a striker more. 'Cause I think Bacho has been great this season. Of course, Marquinhos hasn't been maybe the greatest, but still has that leadership in him. Still has that dog in him. Still, overall a good defender. So I would have probably said Ibra for you more, maybe like a Cavani as well. I think that's that for me makes PSG like shit, man. Like this is like best team in the world kind of level. If they have him and they perform, they score goals and they beat teams. Like you're talking like. I think that's what your team needs. I think that's what you need to do in the summer. I've been on your case all season about you needing a striker, and not like a Gonzalo Ramos, but like a gunman.
I know, but Lucho wants to do 2011 Barca. He wants to do
this false nine stuff like that. I guess, but Barcelona had Ibra false nine, right? He's still cooked. So yeah. So that's a good question, though. Good question. God, imagine if you had like a Cavani right now. I genuinely would be scared for my life.
No, I trust in Lucha in the false nine. Especially because one thing that makes us so good, especially if we watch the Liverpool game, is that fluidity. Like sometimes the boots can be here. Like that's why we play without a striker because Lucho just wants complete unpredictableness. Like Kvara one side on the left, one side on the right. And if we play with the number 9, we can't really do that. So, yeah. Oh, okay. Last thing he said. I mean, current right now, current age. Um,
Huh?
that is playing at the moment. So for you, I would probably guess the best one is Dembele.
I don't understand the question.
So like, would you bring back 40-year-old Busquets, 40-year-old Cook Suarez? So
Oh,
like
okay, okay.
currently,
Oh, okay. So I can't bring Corey back from the dead. Okay. I get it. Um, a current former player. I guess Dembus. um, who else apart from Dembus? Let me know in the chat. Any former Barca players that are cooking right now? Maybe a Grimaldo, but I think Balde is okay. Don't think that's like a crazy upgrade. Um, I can't think of anybody.
I mean, yeah, for us, it's a bit similar. Like the last good player that left us, Mbappe. Like he's the only one
Yeah.
I can think of.
Griezmann, that's not a bad shout. Someone said Griezmann in the chat.
Oh,
I probably would
Griezmann.
have favored Dembele over Griezmann, but
Maybe like a
yeah.
former academy. Like we have like
I'm thinking now, like you have like
Pique.
yeah.
Maybe.
Nico Gonzalez. I don't think he'd bring like this
Ooh,
team a step ahead.
for both of us.
Um, Xavi Simons. I like Xavi Simons. I feel like he's gonna be one of those players that I really like, but I'll never see play for Barcelona. I really like him, like as a player.
I don't know if you've seen, but like Leipzig and their fans are extremely mad at him for like being arrogant and all of that. Yeah,
Really, I tell you what, man. If we don't need a midfield this summer. I think our midfield is absolutely perfect. If we need a midfield this summer, I'd be preaching from the hills to get Xavi Simons. But because he's the first like youth player I ever followed. The Afro hullet hair when he was like 9 years old. When I was like in high school, his name was Xavi too. So I'm like, oh, this is the new Xavi. Blah. I watched his highlights for like the juvenile A team, which is like the under 9, under 11 teams for Barcelona. I was like invested in the day. And I saw him meanwhile scam them to PSG like a turd. But yeah, I think it has to be Dembus. I don't think there's really anyone else that comes. Because every time a player leaves Barcelona, it's either because they're washed or they're past their prime. So
yeah.
no Barca player really leaves their prime. Barcelona, like the players that we sold, of course, Neymar made the crazy move, Dembele as well. We sold like Malcolm for good money, Figo. So all these players that did leave in their prime were always like blockbuster, crazy moves.
Right, yeah. So same for both of us. Probably Dembele and Mbappe then.
Both, of course, recent transfers as well.
Yeah, both considered snakes by. I mean,
I wouldn't
Mbappe
say Dembele is a snake per se. I just think it was just surprising that he left because we just cooked Madrid, of course, in the preseason Clasico. He finally had one like good semi-consistent season. Xavi absolutely took a bullet for him and twerked for him. You're thinking, all right, it's time for you to cook. We were really on that low release clause just to really keep him. And then as soon as one team comes knocking, he dips. I saw him do a video with Thogden, the YouTuber. He did a video with him. He's like, "Oh, Dembele, how much was I?" And it was like, "Oh, I think PG bought me for 50." Then he went like this because like he took half the money. but yeah.
All right then.
Yo, look at this comment. Dembele's Mbappe snake. Come on, he wanted a UCL. PSG ain't it for that. See.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's just,
Mbappe's a snake. P should never win the Champions League. Another great comment there.
No, Mbappe R9. Mbappe is the new R9. Dominates the World Cup, but does nothing in the UCL. I hope so. I mean, we'll face them this season. Everything will be on the line.
That'll be that'll be a crazy game, man. We will be there. You as in that two game time, allez la bleu. Allez Paris.
Yeah, no, I can't wait for that game. But this has been it for episode 22 of the Blaugrana Parisiens. Obviously, we didn't talk that much, but we talked about Ballon d'Or mostly, some international break stuff, and so on. We'll be back with episode 23 on Barca Boys YouTube channel. And we'll discuss like PSG's weekend game, Barca's 2 games. They will have played 2 La Liga games by then. We'll look ahead a bit. Then maybe a small Champions League preview, because the main Champions League preview will obviously be probably the Monday next episode.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's been it from boy PSG Int and Barca boy. Hopefully, guys have enjoyed this podcast. And as usual, allez, allez, allez Paris.